Finishers MMA, finishersmma.com, at Finishers. That's how you find them on social media. These guys have a show with us every Monday called Now We Go. You can check it out. Zach, JM, Thor, Grace, there's too many to name that come out of that school, and they are killers in the game. They are the biggest MMA jiu-jitsu school in the area, and they are owning the East Coast. You can contact them at 610-438-0746. Ask for Andrew. They are at 3761 Nicholas Street in Easton, PA. They have 2 locations as of now, Bethlehem and Allentown. They are growing into 3, 4, 5, 6. I would say they are taking over, but they already have. Check them out on all of their social media. They are awesome to follow. And if you're looking to get in shape, you're looking to choke people, you're looking to do anything at all to better your life, finishersmma.com. AllValleyRooter.net. That's not how you pronounce it all the time. I just say it that way. All Valley Rooter, Jared LaBarba. He is my plumber. He's the show's plumber. I'm getting him plumbing business all over, and I love that he is getting what he wants. He has 24-hour emergency service. He is certified, insured, and professional. You can follow him at All Valley Rooter. He's on social media, and you can find his information at allvalleyrooter.net. Jared came down over the weekend and he fixed a problem down here. He's super professional. I love him as a person. I love his business. He grew it, and he's doing his own thing. It's allvalleyrooter.net. It's 24-hour professional plumbing services. He can help you out with everything you need. It's 610-762-1656. He's certified, insured, and professional. Do not be afraid to contact him for any of your plumbing needs. Support Jared. Jared supports us. Luke Delmeyer Handmade Custom Knives. I love Luke. It's lukedelmeyer.com. He's a farrier, a bladesmith, and a blacksmith. He has custom knives, and the best part about it is you can take classes to make them. So not only can you take a class to learn how to make knives, at the end of the class, you get that knife. We're working on a project together. He started recently getting into chef knives, so he's starting to make chef knives. He makes hunting knives. He can make any of your needs as far as blacksmithing. That's at Luke Delmeyer on Instagram. That is the best way to follow him. You can see all the stuff that he's posting. He shares, he does raffles, he gives giveaways. Check out all things Luke Delmeyer at lukedelmeyer.com. We've had him on the show before. You can dig down in the library, listen to how he got started and where he's at now. I'm excited to work with Luke. He's a really good friend of the show, and I'm excited to showcase his chef knife that he's making me. Check out all things Luke Delmeyer at lukedelmeyer.com. Farrier, bladesmith, blacksmith. Rips Auto Detail. This guy is the best, hands down, in the area. I've interviewed him. I know his story. He's doing things that others aren't, and I love that he fucks with the show. I love getting the best of the best and having them support and be a part of this. That's what the sponsorship is for. I'm giving you the best people in their profession, and Rips is the best at auto detail. It's at Rips Auto Detail for Instagram. You follow that. He's showing you the different cars he does, and it's at 630 North Nelson Street in Allentown, PA. He offers paint correction, ceramic, SPS coatings, and more. This is appointment only, and it's ripsautodetail@gmail.com. You can call him at 484-553-1366. I tell you, follow him. If you don't know, you want to know more about what he does, follow him on Instagram. Follow Rips Auto Detail, and you can see all the things that Rip does. He's a big part of the show. We have a separate show we do called Road Dogs, and you can check out his past interviews and hear his whole story. I couldn't recommend this guy more for your auto, car, boat, plane. This guy literally has done everything, and he is the best in the area doing this. Rips Auto Detail. To Never Again Radio, episode 193 or 4.
I'm trying to be the 1000th episode.
I'll schedule that in. I think I was talking to the last guest. We're well over 1,000. We've been doing it for, this is probably the 4th or 5th year. So we were at 200 or 300 a couple years ago. So we've definitely surpassed 1,000. It was when we started doing full video. I just said to Shivey, I'm like, this is what we should have been doing. So we're just starting at 1. And he's like, what about the count? But like, there was so much bullshit that happened over the years where we didn't know what we were doing. And like, I lost the library on SoundCloud at one point, and then like,
Oh my
we
gosh.
lost all of our listens, and it was not, yeah.
Yikes.
So I'll let you know when we're at 1,000.
Okay. Sounds good.
What have you been up to?
You'll get
I
there
think
again.
the last time you were in, we did the, what was it? The event. And then,
Yeah,
so we
the
haven't been
Ganja
back
Garden.
since there. Yeah. So weather was not our friend that day. It was very stressful, but we pulled it
wasn't.
off.
Yeah, it turned out pretty well. I thought it was cool because a lot of people in the Valley kind of got their license, their medical license, which was the point of the event. And it was cool to kind of share that space in the gallery. So people got to like look at local art. Galen played some ukulele.
A lot of people got their license. I was surprised that many did.
Yeah.
Like that guy was busy because he
Well,
was
like-
outside when I was setting up for food. And if I would have had time, I would have went over and did it.
That is honestly like the point of the events. Like obviously I love doing like the infusions and the food and the drinks and the whatever, but I want people to have access to their plant medicine, whatever
Yeah.
they want to do, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people get in their head that it's like difficult to get a license because they're like, oh my gosh, I have to have like some sort of debilitating illness or condition to get approved for these by doctors. But doctors who are into the medical scene, they're kind of just like, yeah, we'll hook you up.
Yeah, no. I met that guy. There was a lot of cool people that came out to the event. It was fun to see it come to life. And then with doing the food and then the drink and then everything, it went a lot smoother than I thought. It was the rain. The rain was,
Dude,
there was like a
Mother
moment where
Nature
like
got us.
it's the shit people don't see. Where there was a moment where I believe it was Thomas and the guy from the space, and then we're all just sitting there, and you were like, what do we do? Because like it wasn't just a little bit of rain. Like when I was driving there, it was an absolute monsoon downpour. Then it stopped and got sunny, but then it was like in the background, it was like someone was reading from the Necronomicon, and like black and gray was just coming over the valley.
So
and then,
the
I don't
party-
think it really rained.
The party started at 5 and I was having like an active mental breakdown
Yeah.
at like 4:55.
Yeah.
I was like crying pretty much because I was just like, this whole thing is going to be fucked. But it worked out.
It did.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And I don't think a lot of people ever get to see the behind the scenes of that stuff, where it is super stressful because you have people that paid and bought tickets, and like we rented things, and like there was a lot that went into that
Yeah.
for a collaborative
And
event.
Fetterman was coming.
Yeah.
It was like
well,
a
I
big
think
deal.
that was the big thing, because we were like, because if he wasn't, I think we could have easily been like, hey, we're going to do this next Saturday. Your tickets are comped.
Right.
And then worked. If somebody couldn't do it, you give them their money back.
Right, but that was
him
the
coming,
big draw. Yeah.
But it was cool seeing him show up and give a speech and all that. And then like it went way smoother than how it was supposed to at the very beginning of the event.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The rain definitely put everyone involved on edge, but it turned out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you at with everything now past the event? I know you did a couple of conventions, and you got some new product brands, and I just kind of wanted to bring you back on to go over how I'm using the CBD, as well as like what's new with Mindleaf, because you have new things coming out.
So, yeah, a lot of things have been kind of changing. I don't know if I talked about this before, but we kind of ran into some issues with the state a while back. So
We didn't.
basically, the state of Pennsylvania was pissed off that we were making edibles with CBD in them, because CBD is not an FDA approved food additive, but I have FDA disclaimers on all of our packaging. So I'm kind of like, my legal team's like, you're okie dokie with this. But the state was trying to give us a really hard time, and it sucked, honestly, because like we're a small business and I don't have thousands of dollars to spend in legal fees fighting the state about things. They sent me like a cease and desist using federal statutes, which they couldn't even enforce. And then when I tried to respond to them, left multiple voicemails, sent a certified letter. So like, obviously I know they got my response. No one ever talked to me about it ever again. So like I had to like pay all of these legal fees to like jump through these hoops to make sure that like all of my T's were crossed. And like it just turned out that it was like a little wrench that they threw in my gears for seemingly no reason.
Yeah.
So that was super frustrating. But the cool thing about that is we pulled all of the edibles off of the website. We stopped doing production on them. It gave us some time to kind of revamp them a little bit. Like the pretzels are a good example. We used to have...
Yes, they are.
They're back. I know. We were kind of listening to what consumers wanted. So we used to have bags of 10 and people are like, this is not enough. We need more pretzels. So we have bags of 30 now. They're in much nicer packaging.
I'm still waiting for the bag of 100. The barrel.
The barrels of pretzels. Yeah, we got barbecue. We got garlic ranch. We put the dog treats back on the website. We got honey flights coming. I'm actually super excited. This is like gonna be my favorite product. I've worked like really hard to make a honey that stands out because I feel like everybody does CBD honey. So we're doing honey flights. It's going to be 4 different vials inside of like one collective tube.
Oh, that's cool.
So one's going to be full spectrum, 3 are going to be broad spectrum. We source it from Sants in Easton. So again, like a hyper local product. So that's going to be probably ready by Black Friday. And then we have tincture samplers. We have salve samplers coming. We have new pre-roll packaging. Should we talk about this really quick?
Yeah.
I'm actually pumped about this.
No, because that was what I noticed when you were like, we put a match in it.
Yeah, so it's cool. They're in these little glass tubes. This is like what the honey tube is going to look like too, kind of, but shorter and fatter. So you get a pre-roll, you get 2 wooden matches, and there is a striker plate on the bottom.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you buy one without a lighter, do not worry.
Or if you're just in a pinch.
Yeah.
You always lose the lighter
Self-contained.
in the couch.
We're also doing 10% off of your next pre-roll if you bring the tube back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. We're trying to like get a little bit more sustainable, a little bit higher end on the packaging too.
Yeah, and
So-
it also makes it interactive with somebody bringing it back.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yep.
that's cool that you're doing that. I want to get into kind of how you go through the whole process of this because, you know, if it's new listeners or people who've listened before, they don't realize that you're making all of this.
Yes.
So like when you get into like take us through the pretzels and like the whole process of like how you do that.
So, yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that I am actually the processor.
Yeah, and there's a lot of CBD companies that are either buying it and then just kind of white labeling it and then putting it out there, whereas opposed to like when I push your product on people from the area, I'm like, the girl's making it. Like it's not, you know, it's not somebody who's like, oh, she's a part of a larger CBD company and she opened up a store,
Yeah.
or like it's a chain that you're creating and you're getting it from other things. It's like you know, I've seen your kitchen and everything. Like that was the most impressive thing when we started working together. And then when I started using the product, I was like, because I was eating the pretzels and I was like, yeah, she made these. I was just like, that's so cool because you're local to the Lehigh Valley and you're making it in the Lehigh Valley. And then you're also using like the honey from the Lehigh Valley. And it's like you couldn't get more of the definition of a small business that people should support in the Lehigh Valley of everything. You're making it yourself, you're using the products, and then to have it be all made by you. So like that's kind of where I was even getting the question, like, what do you do when you make all this stuff? Like, what's the whole process? What's the science behind it? Like, give a little bit of insight to how you create all this stuff.
Okay, well, so I will bring up that we use like all local farms for our core ingredients. So that's kind of where things start. State Park Farm in Wing Gap and
Shout out to Little Vegas.
Hey. Wild Fox in Bartow and Lancaster Market in Lancaster. But I think it's cool that me as the processor can drive to any of my hemp farms. I can see how the plants are doing. I can talk to the farmers about their experience that year, their crops, whatever. And then I buy core ingredients from them. I get flour, I get distillates, I get isolates. And then that's where I take it to like my lab. I'm like a nerdy little weed scientist.
You are.
I'm the alchemist. I love doing infusion. So infusion is like kind of low intensity cooking because it's like heat plus time. So I can take my time with it. But what's cool is it adds a layer of science and math over cooking, and it's kind of just what I'm into. So I infuse stuff. I use sous vides for everything. So like we dial in directly to the exact degree to maximize like potency and reduce like cannabinoid conversion. So we just have like the most potent and efficient core ingredients possible. Then we infuse food products. So yeah, I do pretzels, I do gummies, I do... What else do I do?
The gummies are cool when you post pictures of like all the little, like each one, like when you post your picture, the molds.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my God, because sometimes you don't realize that like that's what you're doing.
Well, that's another thing. Like edibles like that, like candy that's on the market. A lot of people buy candy and then they spray it with infused like tincture or whatever. And that kind of sucks because it's hard to regulate potency. It's also just like kind of a cheaper, grimier product.
Yeah.
You know, so my gummies are batter made. Like I create a batter, I infuse it with an oil that I've also created from scratch. It's my recipe that I've created, so it's very near and dear to my heart. I could like brag about my own gummies all day. That's like my favorite product in the line because it's just like
everything tastes awesome.
And it's been very grassroots. Like I started out making edibles for my buddies. So it's been a long process of me really like perfecting taste and also efficiency of like onset of relief and maximizing how long they last.
Yeah, and then it's like, you know, I do similar stuff with food where I take the burgers and everything, and then you got to take it to the test lab. But it's like that's how that started. Was I was just making it for friends, but then you have to create a sellable product, and then you have to like take all these things into factor, and then you got to brand it, and then you got to like, you know, there's a lot that really goes into it that's really time consuming. So then for you to be able to do all this stuff in your actual time where you're in the kitchen making all this stuff and, you know, getting it out there, and then, you know, having it do, you know, with the match thing on it, just, you know, like it's cool watching from the first time you were on to then getting to know the whole process of what you're doing, actually learning and using the CBD for myself, and then it kind of registering. I was like, oh well, like Liz is making this stuff. Like it's because it's packaged well, and it, you know, it with CBD and things like if I'm giving you a burger, you know I'm making it. But when you have a CBD product, it's hard sometimes to realize that like the person behind it is actually creating it, which is I think unique about your business, because then you're on social media with Thomas, and it's you don't really get. I don't know CBD companies where the person that making it is also doing all these other things.
I literally have no time. I just work like from the time my eyes open in the morning until I pass out. But yeah, I've been trying to get a lot more involved in social media and things like that. Thomas and I are working on things because I make a better product the more that my consumers interact with me. So when people ask me questions or if people have suggestions, I want to hear those things because it all adds to like the fine tuning in the kitchen.
Yeah. When I started using the products, because I think the first thing I was using was tinctures. And I go through spurts of not being able to sleep. It's just, and you know, now that I've kind of been like doing this over time, it's like, you know, I kind of realize when it's heavy stress, and I won't realize it's stress, but I won't be able to sleep at night. And it's just like, all the stuff's going in my head, but I got it turned off because I'm watching Netflix, but I still can't go to sleep. And then I'm so dumb that like they were like sitting next to me and I was like, man. And then I just like happened to look over and I was like, yo, she gave you like this fucking sleeping tincture. I'm like, why don't you just start using the products that you're supposed to?
I mean, I forget too. I own the company and sometimes I'm just like, God, I'm so stressed out.
Yeah, but it's like if I'm now trying to regularly use CBD, but it's something that I feel like the generations coming up, like they're gonna have all the information, and then they're past the taboo shit they didn't get. So you know what I mean? Like when it first came around, it was like, does it work? Like I still have people question it that are older that are like, or like my people my parents' age that don't understand it. We're like the generation coming up, like they're already using CBD and like they're not brought up on ibuprofen. So like for me to be in the middle of it, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, like I should start using this. And then I think I used the CBD and it immediately relaxed me because I'll use melatonin and I like melatonin, but then I build a tolerance to melatonin, and then once I have a tolerance to melatonin, I'm like, now you're like doing things that celebrities OD on, and I'm taking Benadryl. and like, you know what I mean? That's like, I got to smoke. Bennies. I got the Bennies going. I got the melatonin. I'm taking a hit off the pen. And then people are like, hey, you shouldn't mix all that.
Yeah.
But with the CBD, I didn't notice that the tolerance thing was there. And then like, I was able to keep using it. And then I was literally getting awesome sleep. And then what I enjoy is like when you wake up, it's like a little hug where you're like, oh, hello, you. What great sleep that was. And then I was like, okay, like she really knows what she's doing. This isn't some white label bullshit. Like I was like, that's when I was like, all right, cool. And then now it intrigued me to use your products more because if that worked, this could work. And then I fucked my knee up and I started using the balm then because I was like, it was another moment where I was like, man, my fucking knee. And I'm like, you got the CBD balm she gave you. Like, 'cause you gave me like a huge care package of like, you hit all the feels of like, if there's anything you need. So then I used the balm, and we were talking beforehand where I want to get it over to my dad. And I used it, it relieved some of the pain and the aching immediately. And then I used it 2 days in a row. And then I noticed that like, it was gone. Do you know what I mean? Like it was it was like I didn't have to take ibuprofen. And like once with ibuprofen, it's like I just have to keep taking it and taking it. Where with the cream, it's like I used it twice, or the balm, I used it twice, and then I was back to a sustainable point where like I can start stretching and all that. And then that's when I was really like, I think I might even have texted you where I was like, yo, like this shit works. And you're like, yeah, stupid, I sell it. But like, you know what I mean? Like it was really impressive to, for once, use a product somebody was talking about and then use it for the ailments that are bothering me, and then it kind of hitting all of the realms where like that tincture at night is huge. I never get good sleep, and then when I use that, like with the bennies give you that hangover where like I'm still in that sleep coma for at least like an hour or two. Even coffee doesn't kind of take you out of it, and then you're kind of like floating, and then like around 1 PM I'll be like, I should probably stop taking Benadryl. And then when I did the tinctures, I woke up, I felt good, and then I kind of could get my day moving, and it was, it's like getting out of a bed, and the covers are still on you, and they slowly come off, but then you can get into your day's work, where the Benadryl was like, when you don't let go of the cover, and you just want to stay in bed all day. So it was like I was relieved to find something that wasn't going to fuck me up in the morning, because it's a problem, especially when I used to have to drive in the morning. Like I could stay here and wait till it wakes off, but if I got melatonin and a Benadryl hangover and I'm on the fucking road, like I remember I used to get up like 5:30 and run down to Easton because I worked for a rag company, and like when you have that little hangover, like it's not, you're like still sleeping.
Yeah, it like trickles out into your whole life pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's possible for you to get a good night's rest, it's actually interesting to think about how many like outlier conditions that also affects, you know what I mean? Like maybe you have better mental clarity, maybe you have less anxiety that day. So I think CBD specifically kind of helps with like inflammation. Like the number one thing it treats is inflammation. And there's a lot of conditions that are like inflammation based that you wouldn't think are inflammation based. So sleep is maybe like a good example of that, where like if you can find a product that gets you a good night's sleep and it just kind of gives you a higher quality of life, that you're now like not waking up through the night, or you're not like feeling tired all day, every day. It's just gonna kind of make your life better.
And then once I started using it, and I started getting good sleep, I didn't have to use it every night. And then when I would start struggling with sleep, I was like, oh, you have the tincture. And then I could go back to the tincture and like kind of do this off and on thing where I didn't have to keep using it every night.
Well, I did want to mention when you were talking earlier about tolerance. So you can build a CBD tolerance. Anything that like, I know. Womp womp. Anything that you take regularly, that's the way the body works. You're going to build a tolerance to it. But I wanted to say, like, for like the weed smokers in the room, if your THC tolerance is like too high,
it's Kevin. He's part of the show. Yeah.
Beat it, Kev. Trying to talk. So if your THC tolerance is high and you are begrudgingly needing to take a tolerance break, CBD counteracts THC. They kind of like, I don't want to say negate each other, but kind of they do. So if you're into smoking and you like the ritual of smoking and you smoke CBD instead of THC, it'll help bring your tolerance back down.
Yeah.
And you don't have to really like give up smoking. You can still chill.
Or take 6 bong rips a night to get high.
Yeah. Yeah. You could probably get down to like 5 then.
How were the festivals that you went to as far as like the conventions?
Oh man, that was like a rough couple of months. We were hitting it really hard there for a while, but festivals are always really cool because you meet.
What ones did you do?
We did some holistic events, and then we did like a.
How are those? You probably meet so many interesting people.
We do. You want CBD crystals, anything? Yeah, they're cool. There's a lot of people that are looking to relax. Ooh, what do you got over there? A smoked quartz.
I think.
Hot.
It's like a fidgety thing you're supposed to play with.
We have a thing. We have
I got it from the Hybrid Healer. I went and got back work done, and she just gave me these things.
Nice. Dig it.
They're cool.
We have like a smoking gem. It's like a little one-hitter pipe that's made out of labradorite.
Is that what you gave me?
I probably gave you one, yeah.
It's like the little, it looks like a guitar pick almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're cool. So they're little pipes, but the crystal crew really likes them. I guess like labradorite like protects you when you're traveling in the shadow realm.
Oh my God. I want to do mysterious podcasts with people like that.
Right? Take a hit and you're in the shadow realm.
Yeah. And then that rock is supposed to protect you when you're there?
It's the stone of protection, yeah. But they're pretty cool. They all catch the light like a little differently. So if anybody makes their way to the shop, they're like right at the register on a Lazy Susan. I always like spin the shit out of it because they just like all
I love the shop. I've sent a bunch of people there, and everybody that actually goes is like, man, that's so awesome. Everyone I went said that everybody behind the counter, and I've sent multiple people who then have sent people because they had an experience, but everyone always talks about how much they love the shop and how much information and actual help is at the shop.
My mom is the store manager. She's the best. She's like my ultimate hype lady. So, I mean, I knew she would always be kind of like excited to sell anything that is my creation, but she has really like gone above and beyond when it comes to educating herself about the products and how things work with the body. And
the last person hit me up and was like, he's like, Liz's mom was there. And I was like, dude, she's awesome. And then they were like, she was so much help.
Yeah.
Like, and then it feels good to have somebody that like they gave a recommendation from you, and then like the recommendation goes down the ladder 3 times, and it's a home run for 3 people. Because it always sucks sending someone there, and then they have an awful experience.
Yeah.
Like, hey, try the food. I hated it. Like, oh man. So it's like to send people and then they get help. That's huge.
Yeah. So we actually major in the store, also live events, and like on our social media, we're big on like this education side of things, because I think there are still stigmas for people who aren't in the know. And there is also just like an insane amount of information when you get into cannabis.
Yeah.
Like there's like cannabinoids and terpene profiles and like all these different modalities, edibles, smoking, vaping, tinctures. Like it can get overwhelming. So it helps like having an entire crew in the store that can ask the right questions and figure out what you're trying to treat, what your preferred method of using is, and get you there.
Yeah, I mean, even like just like the secondhand knowledge that I like, was just talking to you about my dad, and like what we want to try and get him with CBD that I think is going to help him, because he's limited to kind of what he takes. Like just even being able to like pass that knowledge over, and the little that I know, it's just interesting to have a new way to do things to deal with like stress, anxiety, pain, joint ache. Like I didn't realize that, like when you were like how you were saying the big thing is inflammation. That's why it helped my knee out so much. And it's like, I hike a lot, and I try and get in to the jiu-jitsu school, whether I'm doing kickboxing and whatnot. And after I'm done doing that, with being older, it's like, or like I fell down the steps. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like to be able to have stuff instead of like ripping ibuprofen, which is just terrible to use over a long period of time. And it's to the point now where it's like, I have to have the 40 bottle of ibuprofen.
Yeah.
And like, I'm constantly taking it because it's like, and it works. Like, oh, cool, my back hurts. Oh, cool. Like any pain you have, where now it's nice to be like, cool, I'm not taking meds. I'm not taking 600 ibuprofens in a month. It's like now I can kind of like use things when I need them and not have to rely on just taking pills all the time. Because I'm a big
bag of pretzels.
Yeah, I'm always a big fan. Or I always hate side effects, and I'm very conscious of them. So it's like when I have, if I take too much of one thing, it's like I can feel my body. So to not have to deal with taking ibuprofen and Tylenol and Excedrin and all that, and you have to eat something and all that stuff, where it's like it's nice to like, at night where I can just put that on my knee or take a tincture and go to bed.
Well, similarly to that, I'm like very hypersensitive to medications. And like, I didn't like the side effects from my anxiety medication.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is my therapist was like, try this shit, try CBD. And I'm shocked that it worked, because I was like also pretty skeptical.
I think everybody is in the beginning, because they're not. Change is always weird for everybody. Yeah. So then it's like, and then plus everyone's been sold down the river so many times on this shit. You know what I mean? Not on this, but I mean, I'm just like on things in general.
It's such a thorn in my side, like the lack of integrity in the industry in general, because like basically federally, CBD was legalized with the Farm Bill, and then the government was just like, yeah, sure. Here's licenses, whatever. Whoever wants to do this, go ahead and do it. So like, there's so many people that come into my store and they're like, I tried CBD and it didn't do anything. And I always ask like, well, where did you get it from? Like, what research did you do? And like, it kind of sucks, because like, I know we're in this like era of people doing their own research, and it's basically just like looking at Facebook memes and then making their own opinion about stuff. But like, it's hard to combat integrity. The way that we do it is like, we lab test everything. We have cajillions of lab tests on our website. They're linked to QR codes on the packaging. Like, and like I said, like I'm also making the product. Like I'm the one stirring the pot, pouring the gummies like by hand. So when we get these lab tests done, I know that they're correct, because I know exactly what products I'm putting into the final product. And I care about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get like a little upset about how easy it is to run like a CBD company, because like with the people who do the white labeling, like you said, they're not doing anything. They don't know what's in the product. They probably don't care what's in the product. They're just about like profit margins, and their entire job is like basically designing a sticker.
Yeah.
And like they just throw it on shit, put it on a shelf, and then pretend they know what they're talking about. And it sucks. It sucks for people like our company, because it like actually cheapens the entire industry. So I don't know.
I had a conversation recently because I, ever since I've been using the product, I've been pushing it. And then you kind of run into people who are like, meh. And I remember talking to a couple friends of mine, and, the one girl was like, I don't kind of buy into the hocus pocus of all that. And I was just like, well, like it helped my dad, and like I can sleep with it. And then it wasn't until like somebody else there was like, hey, like I also stopped over at Mind Leaf and I used their product, or they had it delivered actually. My friend Lisa. And then it wasn't then until the person started being like, oh, well, okay. And then it's just like, well, all right, well, why can't it be that like this is what works for me? And then like if you're still in the old pattern of taking, a ton of different meds, I don't care that you do that. And, and then you have all these side effects from it. But like, if I want to use something natural and like kind of do my own remedy through all this information that like has to be somewhat correct because she's running a business selling it, like how much more doubt do you have to have in a product?
I mean, I get the doubt. I will never fault people for the doubt, because it is kind of easy to run a CBD business with a shitty product.
Yeah.
So the biggest difference between like my Mind Leaf and like every other CBD company on the block, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of them, is like I am actually not a retail store. I have a retail store, but my primary license in Pennsylvania is processing. So like, it's just going back to what we've already been talking about. Like, if they're not making the product, they have no idea what's in there.
Yeah.
So like, and there's no regulatory body to do like audits on these companies. So like stuff you get at the gas station where it's like CBD chocolates, right? And they say it's like 25 milligrams of CBD. I have no idea how much CBD is in there. And they probably don't either. And honestly, there's probably nowhere near 25 milligrams of CBD in them. And there's nobody who's going to check that.
Yeah.
So it sucks. It like is something that like comes up a lot in conversation, because like it just adds to people's doubt in the product. And like, this is why we like sample, or we just try to like get the word out. But it's ultimately like on them. Like it works for me, it works for my friends, we have like a great business going. So
no, and you could definitely see the growth from the first time that you came on, and that was what I wanted to bring you on for, was like to kind of go through like what I use it for, and then and then like what I'm trying to do with my dad, and then like the people that that I've suggested it to, and they use it and it works awesome for them. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to take all this? Like, what's your product line look for you growing it? And like, where do you see, the edibles market growing? And then like, I know you have like the Delta 8 drinks and all that. And I mean, mm-hmm. the Delta 8's a whole nother thing to get into, but like, where do you see, like, what do you want Mind Leaf to be in like the next year? Do you want it to be growing? Do you want to just get back on track because you were shut down for a little bit? And then like, what are you focused on? Because now, like, you have your new packaging, which looks awesome. And then like, because when I first met you and you came on, you were talking about getting the new packaging.
Yeah.
And then I know how long that crap takes.
Oh my God.
And then like,
it's been such a project.
So then now that it's like done and you have all this stuff, and like, that's the cool thing too, is I was like, oh, you're putting this stuff in the bags? And you're like, yeah, I'm doing that. But like, where do you see, do you want more product line? Do you want, like, where do you want to take it?
So I feel like I'm being a little ambitious with this, but I always love making new products. So we are adding a bunch of stuff, like I said, like the tincture flights, the honey flights, the salve sampler and stuff like that. And at a certain point, that's gonna get like too much for me because I am still the one doing production. So we've expanded like our sales program this year. We're doing a lot more shows live, COVID has lifted a bit. So we're getting back on track with that. But this seems to be the year that things are like really taking off. So eventually there needs to be some sort of scale up. We got our new production space underway. So hopefully I can bring people in and like kind of.
It's a rad place. It's huge.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I was like making gummies the other day. I watched the first 4 Harry Potters. I just binged all of them.
I put music on when I work down here, but I love like having a workspace. And we were talking before the show, like what I want to change it into with like having a prep kitchen and like just being able to get stuff ready for the pop-ups is so much easier. Mm-hmm. But now that I've turned it into like more of a workspace than like a studio hangout, like I love it. I can't get out of my work anymore. I just want to be in it.
I love working. It's weird to say that because I've never loved working before this. But doing something that is like tethered, like I'm the brand kind of.
Yeah.
So I have like a lot of pride in it and I love it. I like having small batch stuff that I'm making. I like thinking about it ending up in people's hands at the end of the day. And it's like, cool. I don't know. I could work 24/7. I do work 24/7.
Yeah. We were talking where, like it's to the point now where you push something past an area where you thought, you have a goal of where you want to get, but then when you start working in like new territory, it's like, being out on a boat discovering things. Like I'm now pushing this to areas where like it never was before. And then now it's like cool because I just feel like I'm bringing all this knowledge and things with me when I move forward, like especially with the food stuff and then just seeing that whole business take off and then going back over to apparel and then looking at my apparel and be like, okay, like you've always wanted to do this. Now you can like get rid of that and do this and invest in that. And then like, it's like, it's almost like I finally can play the game because I have the correct pieces to play with. And then like, now that I have that, like I met up with somebody and I was just like, yo, like this is real. Like it reminded me of what an old version of myself. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be doing any of this. I'm like, I want to go back to work. And then I realized like I've literally created the perfect thing for me to do on a daily basis all day long. And it does not, like everyone always would say, find something so it doesn't feel like work. And I have. And then because I don't feel like work and I'm a hard worker, I just work. And then yesterday I was over in the test kitchen and we were making a new burger. And then I go over it with my partner and I'm like, we should do this, we should do that. And then together we create the perfect thing. And she looked at me and she goes like, I love working. And I'm like, yeah. I said, some people don't get this. I said, this is why, and I've tried to work with a million different people on food. And Gina was oddly the person who actually was like, yeah, let's do it. And then when we did that, it's awesome showing somebody else, like you can literally do what you love for a living and it is not work. And like, I could just stay here doing this and run this way and never change. I mean, it would never happen because I'm just constantly evolving, but like, I just wanted to get here. I wanted to get by. And then once I got by, I was like, cool, I don't have to get up and work for somebody else. And then now that's like, because it's scary at first and you wake up and I'm like, am I wasting time? Should I be doing this? And like, I felt guilty. And now when I wake up.
How are you going to pay your bills?
Yeah. Where now I wake up and I just realize that everything's going to be okay because I'm never going to let this fuck up. Like I'm never going to not work. I'm never going to not pay my bills. And then I'm like, oh, you are responsible. You just had massive goals.
Well, I think that is a really hard thing for the average person to relate to.
Yeah.
And I will say that like investing in myself and like just diving off the cliff to like take a huge risk on myself. Like I drained my savings account to start this shit. Yeah. And like there were definitely times where I was sweating bullets about it. But like just fully investing, like the amount of payoff that comes with is just like off the charts. Like sometimes I feel like I'm like one of the only happy people I know.
It's also weird. Like I was talking to my buddy yesterday, and like I went to jujitsu in the morning, and I remember when I used to not be able to do things I wanted because I was on somebody else's 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then, like everyone was, people will comment or message me like, "Oh, it's so cool you got to do jujitsu," and I was like, "Yeah, it took 12 years to get an hour." You know what I mean? Like it took 12 years for me to be able to just be like, cool. Like today, it's like I'm doing this podcast. As soon as it's over at 1 o'clock, I have a Zoom call. Then I have to get to editing. And then when editing's over, I have to start uploading your podcast and Cookie Duster's podcast. And then I have a podcast at 8 o'clock. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Like there's a lot today. So then I realized it's like, all right, we're not getting into emails. I used to try and do all this shit at the same time.
Yeah.
But then tomorrow I'm done. I'm not done, but like now we switch over and we go to food. So like I'm going to set up my prep area, and I'm excited to use my prep area for the first time, and it be less stress.
Yeah.
And then just, you know what I mean? And then like get ready to do all this stuff. And then like, and then we've made the decision, Gina's like, hey, let's go hiking tomorrow morning. And I was like, cool, we need to go hiking because I need to talk about, we're probably going to slow down on the pop-ups, and we're going to start bringing the bagels full circle. And then like,
well, that's like the funny thing.
You know what I mean? Like you start giving yourself time, and then you don't stop working. You just make everything you're working on easier, and then like you just kind of like float through.
It's not really easier. Like small business owners are like the ultimate multitaskers.
Yeah.
So you just said like you're going on a hike with Gina and you're talking about work.
Yeah.
So like I think it's different. Like it reframes the idea of work for you because it's now like tethered to like a deeper purpose within you and like a passion. So like you can talk about work 24/7 because it's super representative of just like you.
Yeah.
And
it's
cool.
meetings. You know what I mean? It's a meeting, but let's go on a hike instead.
Yeah.
And I really like breaking outside of the normal of what's supposed to be the structure of what someone's day is supposed to be. Like I was always just raised like you got up, you went to work, you came home, and then you know what I mean? And then like now it's just like I said to my buddy Keith, I go, I just feel free. I never felt free before. I always felt like I was on somebody else's time, somebody else's paycheck, somebody else.
You like clock in and clock out, and it's like
and then somebody else was telling me how much money I'm supposed to make, and then I look at where I'm at now, and I'm like, I set all my businesses up that I'm venturing on to never have a limit on money. Like I can make as much money as I want as long as I work as hard as I do.
Yeah.
So then but that's how I want to work, because then I don't feel contained. So if I started a business and you were like, all right, Mike, you can only make $20,000 a year. And then it's like, then if you really start looking at that number, you're like, well, what's that worth? What can I do? What can I get? And then like, I don't like having any and I never knew this until I got to this point, but it's like, I don't like having lids on things. I don't like people telling me what to do. But I say that in a sense of I would rather agree as a group to work together than to have somebody be like, you need to do this.
Are you saying every small business owner has a problem with authority?
I would say so. I mean,
we're anarchists.
I also like, I've also worked for a lot of people who weren't open-minded to somebody else's idea being better because they wanted it to be theirs.
Right.
And you know what I mean? There's like so many things that I've grown as a better person. Well, even just recently, like the whole idea that we were going to move up the street to a way bigger space was like, I had it embedded in my mind. And then like we had a discussion in a meeting, and it would work out for everybody if I would sacrifice again. And in the meeting, I was like, I'm like, we are all here because I wanted to do all these things, and I'm the one who brought everybody to the table. We're in this building because of me, and now I'm supposed to sacrifice for somebody else who I have problems with. And then like I was so emotional. I wish it wasn't like, I wish they would have had the discussion with me on a phone. So like for me being in person and then going through all that, somebody had to watch me work through the version of me that I buried to not like, drink and break stuff. So like when I settled and I worked through it and we worked through the whole thing, I kept telling myself like, you have to be open to change, especially in business and growing, or you are just going to be locked into one simple idea. And then when I let go of that and I really started like reworking the entire structure of the studio, it is 200 times the correct decision that should have been made. I would have fucked myself so bad, and I would have been back to square one. And I wouldn't have stopped working, but I was like, dude, you've done that 10 times.
Yeah.
Do not do that again. Do not Do not sacrifice money, as in like you don't care if you spend it, and sacrifice your pride saying you can do whatever they're telling you can't, and you know you're going to do that, but why make your life harder? And then when I took a step back, because I've grown as an adult because of running my own business, I was like, you know what? You're right. And I should move down, and this is going to be easier for everyone. And then once I kind of sat with it, it took me like a day, and I was like literally like, I didn't talk to anyone. I just sat on that couch. And then after the whole thing was over, I was like, you are going to save thousands of dollars. The studio will become a studio, and that's it. And then you can actually go get an apartment and be a normal person and then have your life back. And then I was like, oh my God, I forgot that that's what people do. Because I've been in this basement for so long. And then
that's like a testament to your growth.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean? Like,
but I wouldn't have done that making cheesesteaks for somebody else standing in a shed.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
listen, I worked prior to Mindleaf, I worked in the casino.
Yeah.
For almost 10 years.
So like, where do you think you would have hit a potential growth as you is where you would want you to be a human being, working for somebody else?
I can't think of an industry that it's like more obvious that like the amount of time and bullshit that you deal with for money on a daily basis, and then you get this amount of money, and then here's this huge fucking palace behind you that's built with all the money that you earned that goes to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it gets to you, man.
Yeah.
It like kills your spirit. So starting your own business is tough, but it's like such a soul enriching process.
Like I started this when I was 28, and like I like attribute to like becoming a man because I like ran my business. Like I had to like stay on top. Like I had to pay taxes and like do all this shit, and like I had to become responsible. And when I say like becoming a man, I mean like I didn't have to be responsible because I was just a fuck up drinking all the time. And then when I had to do that at an age where people were already there, and then like have to admit that like, hey man, like I need to grow up, which nobody wants to admit. And then it's like then when I did that and then turned all this shit, and believe me, I call that adulting, and it hangs out in a very small percentage of my life. But like I had to do that because I knew I would never reach any of the potentials. And then after doing it all these years, and then all this stuff coming together and finally paying off, I'm like, man, like what the fuck would you be doing if you never fucking left work? Like if I would have stayed at Martin Guitar.
I know.
And been like, oh, I'm just going to stay here for 35 years and then retire and get a pension. Like,
you'd be a
what
true
the
adult.
fuck would I be doing, man? What would I be doing? Like how that would have killed me as a person.
Yeah, it's soul numbing for real. And also I think it's like a really cool thing to like take a risk when people are like, oh, Liz, this is going to be really scary. Like, you don't know if it's going to go well.
Yeah.
Like,
but I know is that if I feel scared, it means that I'm changing and doing something different, better or worse.
I like hitting year 3 of being in business and being like, oh, well, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Here it is.
There's a lot of people who are mad at me because I left the post office.
Oh,
like straight up, like you fucked a career up. I can't, like people were like, I can't, you did it again, huh? You quit your job.
Yeah, but oh my God, it's like...
then now what I say to everybody is leaving the post office was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life.
For sure. That's like, well, specifically the post office, that's like a crazy
Terrible.
example.
Worst job I've ever
like
had. I used to clean truck stops, and the post office was the worst job I've ever had.
That's why going postal is like a saying,
it's 100%.
right? Because people just like hate that job so much, they just want to kill everybody.
If I didn't have good parents, I understand... I don't condone it, but I understand why people's mental snap working for the post office. Mm-hmm. And nothing's changed. I've talked to people who still work there.
But people get so caught up in that like rat race of like their life
exactly
being like provided for them that like it's hard to relate to
exactly
a
provided for you. Well, if you do
perspective.
this and you stay here for this many years, then we give you this. And it's like
it's
somebody
formulaic.
like it's somebody just like waving something over. And it's like, well, I've earned that. Why can't I have it? We're gonna give it to this person instead. And like the politics and bullshit in it. I don't know. It's definitely the best choice that I've ever had. I mean, seeing everything you've done from the first time we had an interview to like working together and you guys coming on as sponsors, and I love pushing your product because I see people using it and the growth of what you've done. It's like sometimes you look at people and, you know, even after having this conversation, it's like, where would you have been? You know what I mean? Like, where would you have been? And I feel like they're are specific people who will just like they have to run their own businesses. And the more I run into those people, they're just like me. And I always thought I was so weird and different because I didn't have business owners around me. And now that's all that I deal with on a daily basis. And then non-business owners are the people that I don't really see anymore.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about before the show. It's like I feel like at this point I've literally created like an alternate reality for myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't like leaving it anymore.
I know. Seriously. It's like comforting and
it's cool because then you can invite people into it. Like when I do the podcast, it's like I get to bring people over and then like we usually talk about business beforehand and then, you know, you get to share stories and like do cool stuff like this and then you get back to work. But this is work.
I know.
This is work right now for both of us.
Has like anybody who's created a brand, like such a multifaceted world you're living in because you have like so much shit to do. Like my job description, this is why I have no time. I do production. I handle like logistic things in the store. I do social media and marketing. I do live events. I do like it's nuts like how many things exist in my day-to-day job. And then if I ever get bored with all of that, the cannabis community offers me a ton of like outreach and like advocacy stuff. And it's just constantly stimulating. And I don't know, it kind of just fell into my lap in such a cool way. And it surprises me continually, even after being in the industry for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
I go through a lot of that. I go through every once in a while, I'll just be like, oh, I was at an event Saturday and somebody asked what I do for a living. And I used to get weird because I didn't know what to tell them anymore. Like, oh, yeah, I started this clothing company. Or someone been like, hey, are you still doing a clothing company? And now people say, hey, I see what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, good for you. And I'm like, yeah, man, this is my job. And they're like, really? And and like, what's funny is I say it out loud in, you know, because I learned my tools in therapy. So like when I say that out loud, I'm not bragging. I'm saying it out loud so I can hear it. And I know I took years of therapy. So like I know what saying things out loud does. So like it was crazy. And then sometimes like ran into this girl Saturday and she's like, oh, you know, like you're doing this, you're that. And then I started telling people a little bit about what's coming down the pipe. And they're like, yo, that's crazy. And I'm like, I know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I got here. I mean, I do, but like, you know, and then I ran into the one guy at the supermarket, a photographer, and he like fucks with the show. And he's like, yo, I absolutely love everything you're doing, man. And I was like, thank you. And then now it's not like, hey, what are you doing? Like, nobody doesn't understand what I'm doing anymore because I figured out how to present it in a fashion on social media where you know what I'm doing. And then once I started doing that, then people stopped asking me, what are you doing? And then if they don't know what I'm doing, follow me.
I had a wild moment recently where I was like out in public and I saw a Mind Leaf t-shirt
that's always
in the
weird.
Wild.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I went over and I like introduced myself and they were just like, oh,
good on
sick.
you.
Like,
I never do that.
Oh my God. I was like fangirling out about my own brand.
You want another t-shirt? Yeah, it'd be cool. I used to get texts from my cousin. He was like, yo, I was in Easton, saw somebody wearing a Never Again hat. And I was like, fuck yeah, man. It wasn't until I went out into the wild and started doing food pop-ups where I started realizing how far the reach was. And, you know, I just work and I just put out another podcast. But then, you know, you don't start realizing that every podcast is touching 100 new people every single time.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm doing 3 a week. It's like you can do the math. Like it's going out to a bunch of new people every week plus the same listeners. So like once all that stuff started happening, then it was like, you know, people started coming up like, hey man, I fuck with your show. And then strangers started. I was like on a hike and some guy's like, yo, love the podcast. I was like, what? And my friend's like, what is that? And I just go, I don't know. I'm so uncomfortable.
You just got to keep a Sharpie with you so you can like sign autographs from here on out.
Yeah, right. It's me. I would have ran away. You don't know me. I want to just wrap up because I don't know. I didn't want to go too long on it, but everything I wanted to hit, I brought you on, and we're both extremely busy. I just appreciate you making time because I know you don't have it. From the first time we interviewed to the relationship that has grown into now, I'm super thankful to have another person to talk to in business. It's really cool that we're now working together and that I'm able to push people to come to the store, and then meeting your mom, and like I went and picked product up from her, and she's like the coolest person ever, and then like kind of getting behind the scenes to see what you're doing. But it's pretty remarkable what you have done, from the simple fact that you make all this stuff. I know how hard it is to do the social media, the marketing, the setting up, and all that, and it's not easy to do. And I applaud you for doing all the things that you do, because you're still doing it. There's been, what did I say? Let's meet up for beers and tears. Like it's definitely an extremely stressful thing where like sometimes like I'll talk to Zach or like these other business owners, and like if you don't own a business or you're not invested as like a part of a business, like you don't really understand the amount of shit that comes down the pipe. And I just think you handle it well, especially coming through that whole thing with that shutdown thing. And I remember getting on the phone with you and you were like, I don't even know if our business is going to be here. And then when you have somebody because I remember, which reminds me, I got to look into it, my trademark, like I lost that at one point and I got it back, luckily, through some bullshit, because like I found out that the trademark was gone, and then when I went looking for it, it was up, and it was literally a moment in time where like I had lost my trademark for 5 years, somebody else picked it up, and then theirs ran out, and then I just came back in and took it.
Dude, how sketchy are those people that
hate
like
that shit.
Snipe trademark?
I don't know if it was someone doing that or they did it, but then like what it came down to is that because all that hashtagging, all that stuff, that comes down to if somebody puts never again in a search engine and I come up, they lean towards me having it longer than the person. So like if somebody started never again clothing and it was coming up my shit, it would lean towards me, not them, and it would show that I had it longer. So like all that dumb fucking hashtagging and making it show up, like I've done that all organically. I've never paid to have fucking Amazon or Google, the Google Analytics. Like that's all natural. But
way over my head.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to pay somebody to figure that out.
Yeah, right.
I want to give you a chance to kind of go over your new products. I can give you the pretzels back, but then you have to give them back to me so I can eat them because I'm having them for lunch. Just go over the drinks, what you guys are doing on Halloween, all the new products, and anything else you want to push Mindleaf.
So the new products are technically kind of old products. You want me to hold them up?
Yeah. That's what I was saying. What if I just threw them at you?
You're assuming I'm a good catch. Check them out. So yeah, the new products are all kind of old products that have made their way back, new and improved. We got the garlic ranch pretzels. We got barbecue pretzels. We have the sweet potato and peanut butter dog treats back. We're doing new pet tinctures. They're going to be bacon flavored at the end of the month. We'll be having a sale on the hemp seed oil ones. We have new hemp in, like I said, hyper local. Wild Fox is like right on the other side of Makunji. We're also doing a Halloween.
It's like exciting.
Adult trick-or-treating, pretty much. So our store is on Cattell Street. If you show up on the 30th, which is Saturday, October 30th.
Are you guys doing it all day? Or your store hours, right?
I think during store hours, yes. So we carry these seltzers. Let me hold these up really quick.
You have these for sale in the store anyways?
Yeah, they're for sale in the store all the time. We have a couple of different drinks, infused drinks. We have Kalo, CBD, seltzer. We also have Wild Fox does like CBD hemp teas. These are the Delta 8 products. So we didn't really get into cannabinoids this time, but
no, next time the next one, let's just do the whole thing on Delta 8.
So there's Delta 10 and THC.
What?
Too. I know it just keeps getting crazier, but hey. So these are Delta 8 products. That means they're psychoactive. So you will get a little bit of a high from the seltzer. They're from a company in Jersey called Elevate. They're really good. They some of my friends use them as mixers if they're into like crossfading. But the Elevate guys will be on site at the store on October 30th giving samples out. And we're also doing a thing that if you show up in costume, we'll give you a free pre-roll. So it's trick or treat. You have to say trick
I have
or treat.
a Frankenberry costume. Maybe I'll wear that over.
Frankenberry. Let me tell you, the college kids, like we're on Lafayette's campus.
Yeah, they starting to know that you guys are there a lot more now?
They are. And the college kids usually bring it with the costume ring.
Yeah.
They're just like...
It's a fun age.
They're still young, into putting effort into things.
Yep, that dies off.
It's, yeah. I don't know. Frankenberry sounds...
I want a trip to Punta Cana with that outfit.
Really?
Yeah, if you look up Frankenberry, I don't normally expose this, but if you look up Frankenberry Fauerbach, there is a video on YouTube of me dancing at, it was an old sports bar in Bethlehem that is now, what is that over there now? I forget. It was a place where it was like, what was that, Rival Sports Bar or some bullshit like that? It was a sports bar with an arcade upstairs for a while. Regardless, I went there, and it was they were doing.
I think I'm kicked out of that place.
It no longer exists.
Oh, great!
Then it's not Rivals. It's
Rascals.
I forget what was over there. Regardless, I danced in a Frankenberry costume, and I won a trip to Punta Cana.
That's very impressive.
The only thing I've ever won in my entire life, and it's on YouTube.
It's your lucky costume.
It's on YouTube if you look it up. Yeah. Punta Cana, Frankenberry.
I better see you in this costume.
I might have a pop-up that day.
Oh my God. You can
I should
cook
wear
in
Frankenberry.
It.
I don't even say that out loud.
This is such
I don't even say that out loud.
This is such a build-up.
Maybe I'll just bring the head, because if I just bring the head, it'll be easier to cook in.
Oh my God. Okay. Well,
all right. So costumes the 30th.
Costumes the 30th. Come get some samples. We also have like D8 candies. I brought you like some peanut butter cups and taffy.
I'm a lightweight. I'll just do those Saturday morning and see how they go.
Well, if y'all are throwing a crazy
or Sundays
trick or treat,
I'll definitely get into a Sunday.
Can get people
Delta.
lifted. Yeah, all the deltas.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Come see us on the 30th.
Yeah, and I do want to have a podcast on deltas and what is it, Delta 8? Now there's Delta 10.
There's Delta 10. There's a ton of information about all these different cannabinoids. I think like people get freaked out by alternative cannabinoids than like the usual suspects. Like CBD and THC are the most common ones. And then when you hear the other ones, I think people's minds automatically go to the stigmas because there are like lab manufactured cannabinoids. So like when you get into like spice or like salvia, that's like the crazy shit that makes people bug out.
Yeah.
But that's not what we sell. Everything we sell occurs like naturally in the plant, and they're all legitimate and cool.
I want to go over it next time because I have questions on it, and I know some of my friends that I give the Delta 8s to, they're like, I can go get these? And I was like, yep.
Pennsylvania legal, naturally occurring in the plant.
We'll go over that next pod. Thank you so much for coming back on. We are going to end up doing an event. We'll probably use the studio down here. We're going to set that up. And we just kind of got some new things coming down the pipe, working together. Check out All Things Mindleaf. If you are a first-time listener, first-time watcher, go to neveragainstudio.com. That's where we have all the podcasts, all the video podcasts. If you go to YouTube, subscribe. I drop these as premieres, so it'll actually let you know when the podcasts are dropping. I usually do them at 9 a.m. It seems to be the best time to do them. If you want to follow anything at all, it is Never Again Studio on Instagram. I primarily post there. Everything else gets drained off into other things. If you're looking for munitions, I have nazoammo.com. We are pushing Keystone munitions. And that is it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was awesome seeing you. Let's set up some beers and tears because as much as this week was light, I know next week is going to be dreadful.
Always down for beers and tears. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.